show, everyone. I am so excited about being inside today because it's a little cooler in here. Not that much, but a little bit cooler in here than it is out there. You know, I made it possible for everybody to talk about themselves right here on the radio, and that's what we're doing with everybody here. I love my show the most because it is such great information for everybody out there. My first guest that I have on with me, and I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you.
I think you didn't make it in last time, or we almost made it in. I am so happy to have with me Michael Van Vleck, and he's the owner of Denali Real Estate. And talk to everybody a little bit about yourself, what you do,
Sure.
and what we're going to talk about today.
Okay, so Denali Real Estate is a Arizona licensed real estate brokerage. We cover the Phoenix area and Tucson now as well. We specialize in investment properties for investors, which could be people who own multiple properties. A lot of our clients just own one or two properties in the valley and in Tucson that need help managing. So we help folks that both need to buy and sell, and then of course manage as well. I would say this, as it turns out, for us, we don't do a lot of marketing and advertising and things like that. But most people end up finding us just simply by Googling our name. Because we've been rated by a number of different places, independent places such as Angie's List, which a lot of people know of. You can find us easily on there as the #1 rated management company. You can go to places like Thumbtack, #1, not even close. You can see us on there. Expertise.com named us #1 in all of Phoenix out of 400 and some managers. Tucson as well. If you look Tucson Property Management on their website, you'll see us there too. So, the information that we have giving today is really just to trying to help people, give them information that they might find valuable. And today's a little bit more current on, everybody's dealing with COVID and things related to that. And I think this show will be about the same.
Well, here's the thing. What I did, everybody may not know or know this, but I have a YouTube channel, and today I had your video up in front of me that you did the last time you were on, and you can guys check it out. Go to Networking Arizona on YouTube and see them all there. There's thousands of them, but I wanted to bring this up because what I wrote about.
And we're live on Facebook.
I'm going to say that as what I wanted to do was say this about you today, that I wrote about you because I've known you now for over 5 years that you've been coming on the show, and your passion about what you do and arming people with information so that they could make good choices,
That's right.
decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you own property, and a lot of people want to try it themselves, and you're all about helping them try and do
Absolutely.
it that way. But at the same time, if you want someone, this is what I wrote today, that is an expert in your field and who will give you the service that is far none superior to anyone. And I did write that you're A+ on every single one of the different platforms out there that you can find them in, and on Better Business Bureau as well.
We are on there too.
So, we are live on Facebook, so hi to everybody. Like this and follow us and share this with everybody that you see, because that's what the show is all about. Maybe it's you, maybe it's someone that you know that might need the information.
That's right.
So let's, again, we talk a little bit about you, but today you said you want to talk about the COVID side, and
Sure.
it's hit every single person out there, including you.
Well, it's surprising. I think you don't realize how far-reaching it is, right? It impacts lots of different things. We have both now, it's particular as it relates to real estate. We have federal legislation that impacts you if you're if you're a homeowner and that's renting your home, but also state. Like the governor's executive order, for example. So there's a lot of things that are impacting if you're renting your home that have an impact on your ability to do certain things. It makes it very difficult as a landlord. Personally, I look at it and say it's hard because when the federal government or the state says you as the tenant, kind of almost get a rent holiday where you can't be evicted, the landlord really can't do anything. It makes it hard as a landlord to do that.
It does, but where you come in, I want to talk about where you come in on that.
Yeah, well, and as we move through this, I'll give some real life, recent examples. But I think as a landlord, even before we move in this, I will say this because I think this is important. when March came through and it looked like April was going to be a pretty rough month, particularly for collecting rents, we took a different approach, which was to really outreach to our tenants and be proactive. Instead of waiting for them to call us and say, hey, we have a problem, we went out to them and said, look, here's some resources available to you, both at the state and federal level. At the time, they had $1,200 payments going out to each taxpayer, and some other benefits. Unemployment, the federal government kicked in some extra there. So what we did is did research on all of this, provided all of our tenants with information, links on where to go if you need this. The state of Arizona has an eviction fund, eviction prevention fund that you can go to, but there's other nonprofits that are helping in this area too. So we gave them a lot of links and a lot of information on if you're having trouble, get out there and be proactive.
But look at this shows. This shows the kind of property management company you are compared to other people.
Well, so interestingly, I've heard different reports of how much tenants are delinquent in rent, and I've heard that number, 20 to 30% on the high end. So going into, for us, April and May, the expectation was, man, we got to do better than that, right? So we want to be in a position where we don't have delinquent tenants on a large scale like that. So for us, I think our outreach helped a lot. Our tenant screening helped a lot. We collected 100% for April and May and June. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so I think that's a big deal. So part of this is, navigating this. Instead of taking the approach, if you're a landlord, to say, my tenant's not paying rent, you need to get out. Take a different approach and say, what can I do to help you? How can we work out a payment plan? How is it that we can, put you on track? What can we do to help you get resources or navigate towards them? So I think taking that approach definitely can help.
Now, your phone number for them to reach you is 480-626-4062. His website is denaliarizona.com. CARES Act.
Okay, so CARES Act, that's a federal law that Congress enacted. And basically, the very easy summary of that is if you have a federally insured loan on your property, then you can't evict somebody from your home for non-payment for a period of 120 days. Now that's coming up. It's set to expire this month. So what happens with that, we don't know. But as of right now, how it works is, I think it's July 25th is the date. If you have tenants that have not paid rent, you have to serve them a 30-day notice that you intend to evict them. Normally it's a 5-day notice. Because of the CARES Act, it's a 30-day notice. Now this is only if you have a federally insured home, right? If you have Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, or or you go through Section 8 or some other federal program, then it does impact you. If you don't have that, then it just doesn't apply. So it's really important to know, do I have a federally insured
How do they
loan?
find out? They should just call their bank, or do they call someone?
Well, call your lender who you got the loan with. Look in your loan documents as well. You will see, in your loan documents. But going to your lender is usually the easiest thing because they can wade through that.
I love when you're on, because this is what you do. You give information to people out there that honestly is so helpful, and thank you for all of that
try
that
to.
you do. And you really do. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to talk further. His number to call, it's area code 480-626-4062. You got to check him out. He's 5-star rated every single place that you can possibly check. It's denaliarizona.com. So kind of fun, huh? Now this is a 30-minute segment, so that's the difference why we're so comfortable, is because we're not just trying to go boom, and it still goes by fast no matter
so
what
fast.
you do. No matter what you do.
It's so
Hold on
fast.
tight with me. I'm going to step out for just a
Yeah,
second.
of course. I always come in with just a couple of bullet points. My first couple of times I did, I came in with pages. I'm like, oh man.
Like this?
Yeah. Well, so I got all this information, right? I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be awesome. And we got through like this much of it. I'm like, okay, I don't need that much. So I come in and I've got literally on this paper that she has 5 bullet points.
Yeah.
And we only got to 1.
Yeah.
you know what I mean? We're not gonna get to 5, but that's okay. I always like to make sure I have a little bit, but man, you just don't get through. That was 1/2 segment, right? It's 12 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
You can barely cover a couple things.
Yeah. I figured she's
Good information.
I would just respond to whatever she asked.
Yeah, you almost have to like the first time I came in, I'm like, oh, I want to go over all these things, and then I realized it's impossible. So it's like, okay, which is good. If you know what's really good about it is by having to go through this so many times and think of different shows and different topics, it's really helped with sort of my elevator speech, right?
Yeah.
That 2-minute thing of like, hey, what do you do? It's like, boom.
That's a good point.
It makes it so it's definitely refined it with like talking to prospects and people for our services. It's like
What do you
one-
do? Let me tell you what I do.
Yeah, right. It's super easy now because it's like I have to think about slimming it down to what are just the very fine points. We always have this tendency to go into like all this rambling detail, and nobody cares because they're not going to remember. So it's helped. This one of the reasons I like doing this is it helps me constantly refine that and keep it simple. Because you want to do so much, and you just 12 minutes is like that.
Good information.
You're like, man, I'm done already.
I know, it's just unbelievable how fast it goes. No matter what, you could be on for an hour and it goes by fast. It just does. It's just how you want to do it. It's really what it comes down to. How do I want to do it? Do I just want to get that word out real quickly, or do I want to talk about what I do? You know, it's a little educational part of it. You know, I like to go more narrow and deep, just like when you here with you. I
Yeah.
like to go narrow and deep on subjects because it just makes you sound differently, that you're not just trying to sell them on you, is really what it is, you know?
Yeah, totally. I just pick a small topic and I just rotate them differently on different
Yeah.
shows, you know, because then and you get the recording too, so you can, it works.
Yeah, wait till you see what you're gonna get from me in the next
No,
couple
it works
days.
though.
I'm
And
excited.
it's helpful because Carol's here to like, it works, you know what I mean? Like she's like asking questions, so it's not just you talking, you have a little dialogue, it's just, it works like better. It just does.
See, and we don't really change anything, we're still live, but the people love all of the background stuff that's going on here and
Right.
stuff like that. Okay, here we go. So welcome back, everyone. We're talking with Michael Van Vleck, and he's the owner of Denali Real Estate. And Mike, you've been in this business for as long, well, I don't know how long, very long time.
Almost 20 years.
20 years. And what I love about you the most is that you're all about getting that information for people. Today we're talking about COVID concerns and property management.
That's right.
Huge, huge problem for people out there that
Major.
are dealing. I'm sure it is. But you know, you said
On both
that-
sides, right? If you're a tenant, and you lost your job, it's awful. If you're a landlord and you don't have somebody paying rent, it's awful. And so it's awful for everyone.
But here's also the awful part of it too, because a lot of people, let's say you've got your unemployment and you're really happy because you've got that for right now, and it's extended you to the end of July too.
Right.
We don't know what's going to happen. Nobody does. But okay, great. Did you hoard the money? Did you make sure that you had the money? Maybe you did. Maybe you didn't. You know. So we don't know where anybody stands right now when it comes with that, and so
Right, yeah.
it's all right now within the next few days is going to be major changes in people. And even though they're giving you extra time, like you said before, when you evicted somebody, it was 5 days.
Well, you used to start the eviction process with a 5-day notice, right?
Okay.
That starts the process. Now, if you're a federally insured loan, you have to give them a 30-day.
Right. So they've extended it for you a little bit.
Yep.
But you know how hard it is, even when things are okay, for some people to be able to find work and make sure that they have, you know, all their
Absolutely.
money together. But what I love about you is how you are so proactive in making sure that your tenants are taking, and that's what you want to hear. The investors listening out there, the people that are listening, looking to have a property management company,
Right.
this is the kind of person you want working for you.
Well, I think it is important to be proactive. And just to tell a story, we took over a property at the beginning of May from another property management company, and up until the day that we took over, the tenant hadn't paid for several months, and the management company didn't do anything about it. They simply said, well, you know, there's an executive order from the governor, kind of thing, and they didn't do anything, served no notices, did nothing. Now, the governor did issue an executive order, and it has been since extended as well. But the executive order is very specific. It does say that the tenant, if they're affected by COVID, then they are able to suspend rent payments. It doesn't mean that they ultimately won't owe that money, right? It's not forgiven rent, but it does put some burden on the tenant. They have to provide documents or whatever they have to show they've been affected by it, right? And so in this particular case, these tenants weren't being responsive to the management company or the owner. They weren't saying anything. So they seemed to be like they were just simply freeloading the process. So we took it over. We did file an eviction because they wouldn't communicate with us. They wouldn't give us any information to show they were impacted, and they were ultimately evicted in 30 days.
But what would you rather, as somebody who owns the property?
Well, we wanted them to pay, and we wanted to work with them.
Of course.
And the owner wanted to work with them to at least get them on a payment plan or get them to make partial payments or whatever it would be. I mean, we had every effort to do that. But so just because there is an executive order, that executive order doesn't mean that you can't file an eviction. It doesn't mean you can't go through the process like we did with these folks. You, as a tenant, I mean, we always hope to avoid those situations, but as a tenant, they have to meet the burden of proof.
Right, and you know what? It's got to be fair for both sides, right? I think it's wonderful that you're being there. Some people are not, but you are. But the main thing is when somebody's not communicating, not do what they need to do, what choice do you have? And if you're going to let it go, you want the money or you don't want the money, right? You want to make sure your property's
That's
being
right.
taken care of.
So that's right. So in this case, I would say, what do you do if your tenant doesn't pay, right? The first thing that you do is contact them. Do everything you can to contact them. If you can, the governor's executive order and the CARES Act as well, they both encourage owners to work with the tenants, to try and work out a payment plan or do something that will allow them to stay and get caught up over a certain period of time. So that's always encouraged. We've done the same thing.
There's a lot of people that try and do their own property management themselves, right? And
There are
a lot. There are a lot of people that try. Do they get themselves right now? Are they finding themselves having to call someone like you, let's say, to find out what to do? Because when you do something yourself, there's still rules and regulations.
Sure.
You got to find, and even though it's Sister Mary, whoever is that's renting your place, guess what? You still have to follow the rules.
So anytime you have a system, whether you have a property manager or you're doing it yourself, it's in times like this where there's a certain crisis going on, whatever it is, that you realize where there's a weak link in the chain, right? So maybe your property manager's the weak link. It could be that you're doing it on your own and that's the weak link. But these are the times that you really find where those problems are, and hopefully you make corrections.
The cream rises to the top, basically.
It really does.
And you're the cream to the crop. And so the phone number to call is 480-626-4062. It's DenaliArizona.com. Thus, the importance of tenant screening.
It is, right? So, and I think if you can't get your tenant to pay, unfortunately, you probably will have to try to go through the eviction process, and you hope that doesn't happen. The number one thing that you can do to avoid issues, and this is not just now COVID, but in general, is to actually screen tenants better. And this goes back to, the very beginning part of the process. It's just like anything in life. The easiest way to avoid problems is don't get into them in the first place.
Right.
This is it. I think if you have a very diligent process for screening, knowing how to screen tenants and what you're looking for specifically, part of that comes from experience. Part of it comes from, a driven process that's trying to deliver certain outcomes. Like in our case, we're trying to find tenants that we think are 3-year tenants. That's our goal. So I want to find tenants that have characteristics of 3-year tenants, not 1-year tenants, 3-year, because longer-term tenants are better for every owner. They produce better results, better return, lower expenses, all those good things. So we're looking for that type of tenant. Most management companies are looking for whatever can meet a 1-year.
Make sure we fill it.
And most owners have no idea. When the owner's screening a tenant that's managing it themselves, they have no idea what they're looking for. They'll run a credit report, look at their credit and see if that's good enough, and then they move on. I mean, that's pretty much it.
I want to let you talk before we leave today about you and how you work with how your contracts work, because you're
Yep.
pretty unbelievable when it comes to that too. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
absolutely. So, just a very brief overview. It's very easy. Our property management, it's a flat fee system. It's $85 a month. You only pay that when there's a tenant and when they pay rent. So if your tenant doesn't pay or your place is vacant, you don't pay anything. The only other fee that we have is for us to find you a tenant. Like when your place goes vacant, it's also a flat fee. It's $295. So that's it. Those are the only two fees. I think you'll find in the marketplace it's very competitive. It's not my intent to be the lowest cost provider, but I think if you consider what we charge relative to our competitors, and in addition to rated the service that we deliver, I truly believe this is the best you can get.
And that's on that side of it. For your tenants, the people that come in, you also have an incredible way that you
Well,
work
so,
with them too.
for us, there's a few things we do differently here. Number one, we answer the phone. So if you're a tenant in the marketplace today, your number
They
one
always
issue...
answer the phone.
You can't get anyone to answer the phone. You can call our office right now. I challenge you, 480-626-4062. Somebody will answer. And so that's the number one thing. Number two, we actually show homes. So a lot of management companies just let people go in with the little boxes and you enter a code. You go in on your own, nobody's there. We always have a licensed agent there to answer your questions, to guide you through the process. And we're the only management company I've seen that does not charge application fees. So if you're out there today, particularly now because it's so hard,
Right.
you're applying. Some people are saying they're applying for 3, 4, 5 places. One lady told me last week that they applied for a place. It was $75 per person
Ooh.
to apply. That's really tough, and you usually don't get that money back. So for us, no app fees. We want you to apply. And we do it fairly. It's first come, first served. You apply, you're the first one in. You're the first one we work with.
And you know what? They're looking for people who are the 3-year type of people. And there's a lot of people coming in from out of state right now to be with their families, especially with what's going on. I know that it's hard to get here, but a lot of people, school starting and all that kind of stuff, families want to be together now. And you never know. If you might need something like this, you can call them direct. Their phone number is 480-626-4062, DenaliArizona.com. Also, please, 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 if you are trying to do it on your own, if you are looking for a property management company, there's the one to call. Real quickly, too, why do you need a property manager?
Well, I think it's times like this that you need a manager to go through the process, to take best practices, to be a thought leader, to know, in now, where there's legislation that's changing, it's coming down. You want somebody that's educated in those areas, has resources available. The information we get is from multiple attorneys in town that are very educated in this, so they educate us as well. So if you need somebody really that's at the forefront of what we do, which is property management, then we'd be happy to talk to you.
480-626-4062, DenaliArizona.com. You know what? He's always fighting for his clients. Again, that number is 480-626-4062.